This is Pink Talks, the place where we discuss intersectionality and human rights.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this new episode of Pink Talks. Today, we're going to have a book club event about the book We Should All Be Feminists by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And I'm here with Anna Caterina Caldeira, Leah Cini, and Shanice Morrison. Hello. Would you like to introduce yourself? Catarina, should we start with you?
Okay. So I'm Catarina. I'm from Portugal. I'm a little bit in the backstage of Pink Talks, but with this text, I was really motivated to participate because I really love her. So yeah.
Thank you. Leah?
My name is Leah. I'm from the United States, but I study in Portugal at ISTE, and I'm working on my master's in psychology of cultural relations. And I'm an intern at Young Educators working in Pink Talks.
Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Shanice Morrison from Jamaica. I was introduced to this by a friend, recommended by a friend, and it's been very interesting. And I am so honored to be here and to be a part of this discussion, because I think it's definitely a discussion that we all need to have more often. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this brings.
Thank you. I'm Deborah. I'm from Italy. I also collaborate with Young Educators, and I'm here today to host the event. So I will be the one making questions. So a little bit about Pink Talks and this particular series of events, the book clubs. So Pink Talks started. Katarina here. She's the head of Pink Talks and behind it and organizational. And it's a series of events and initiatives that a group of voluntary people decided to have, and we talk about feminism, intersectionality, and we try to bring our own opinions and talk about them, because we really felt the need to start talking about themes like this. So it's also an opportunity for everybody, to share ideas and to share opinions. This is what we will try to do also today with this book club. I will introduce it a bit. So Adichie, she's a Nigerian writer of novels, non-fictions, and short stories. She's very active in social teams, and she's actually one of the most popular intellectuals nowadays, especially with themes like feminism, intersectionality, LGBTQ rights, and racism. She has, if I remember correctly, she has two TED Talks. One was in 2009, was The Danger of a Single Story. And another one was in December 2012, and was We Should Be All Feminists. After this actually conversation, she decided to make it a book out of this talk. So that's the book We Should All Be Feminists, that was published in 2014. and talks about actually her views on gender construction and and sexuality. So I would start by asking you if when well, first of all, actually, if you in which language did you read the book? Because I, for instance, read it in Italian, and I think it's interesting, not to see also what everybody got from the book, also written in different languages and translated. What about you?
I can go first. So I read it in Portuguese. Normally I try to like read in English if the author writes in English, but I was like so caught up with her and her talks on TED Talk that it was like I just went to a bookshop and like bought the first edition that I found. And so, but I actually read afterwards some of other books from her, but in English. So I think that the translation in Portuguese is like nice, but it loses something. So yeah, but I really liked it.
And Leah and Shanice?
Yeah, I read it in English, but I wasn't aware that it was a book. I knew she had the TED Talks, and my professors had used them in class before. That was the first time I had heard about her. But I'm glad now I have the book and I can add it to my collection, my library. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Actually, for me, the book came first in Italian, but just because I was in a library in Italy, so that was the available one, and I really wanted to read it. But then I discovered also the TED Talk. So I I read the book in Italian, and the TED Talk is of course in English. And I have to say, there is like, first of all, there is this difference of when you I don't know, like watch a movie and then you read a book, that like it always appears like two completely different stuff. Anyways, it's like watching a story and reading a totally different story, but of course, because your imagination is different, no, when you read, and when you hear stuff, or you watch stuff. And also, I have to say, I'm a bit more comfortable reading in Italian, of course. Um, so I also had a different feeling of the book, of what she was writing while the translator was writing, right? So it was also I have the feeling like it was a bit warmer feeling when I was reading the book because of the language. But I didn't find it yet. But I would like to experiment the reading it again in English, just to see if like the feeling is different also reading it. But yeah, indeed, it's super interesting, no? And so much differences that you don't even like think about at the beginning. But can you share with everybody when and why actually you decide to read the book? Was it like a particular moment, or was it because of like just interest? If you have some stories to tell and share, they're very, very welcome. Who wants to start?
I can. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, my professors in my class last semester had shared a video with us. And it was, I think the course was Gender, Emotions, and Power. And so we were talking about like between gender and privilege. So she used it for that. But then we went on to focus maybe on the word feminist itself. And so that discussion was very interesting. And now one of my colleagues that's what her thesis is on, is about the word feminism and feminist, and if we should change the word or adopt something else. So yeah, I think I read the book now because of the book club, which I'm very happy about. But I do think listening to her, the same way that you said, like watching and reading is very different. So I preferred listening to her speak. I think she's very powerful and it's very like motivating. And I read the book after, so I kind of read it in the same way that she was speaking, which was kind of interesting. So yeah, I really enjoyed it though. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you, Leah, for sharing this.
Yeah, and it was pretty much the same for me in terms of I am a very visual learner. So just watching her, the body language, all of that helped me to absorb the message, even though I did enjoy reading it in more detail and going through all the points that she made and everything, because she did expound on some points in the book that she didn't really touch on in the TED Talk and everything. So yeah, I was introduced to the novel by a friend who recommended it to me, and yeah, it was just really great. It was awesome.
Actually, for me, it was a little bit different. Some time ago, I started like building my feminist library because I love books. I read lots of books, but I missed like a feminist perspective. So, and I started building my feminist library with authors, and I think in 2016 I started to see that I only had like white women voices. So I was really like, I stopped in on my tracks and tried to do a research about women of color talking about these kinds of issues. And so she was like the first author that I saw the TED Talk video, and I was like transfixed by her energy and by the way that she was talking about issues that are like important to me. So I finished watching the video. I got out of the house and I went to like a bookshop here in my neighborhood and bought a book. And from then on, I always try to buy her books. because of that. She has like a very interesting perspective. So yeah, it was a little bit my own me trying to hear different voices, different feminist voices. So it's a little bit like that.
Thank you. We're different stories, but like super interesting. I think that that's really nice to observe, like how different people in different parts of the world, like they like do one thing which is like the same, but moved from different perspectives and from different motivations. So thank you. And what, like, a general first impression about the book when you were reading it? What was it like? What, where did you have like? Well, of course, like that also changes now if you read the book first, or if you um, watched the TED talk first. So I'm very interested to hear about like the first impression. Like, what was it? Would like to start maybe Shanice?
All right. So for me, I really enjoyed watching it, but at the same time, it really and truly brought up certain emotions while reading and going through everything. Because I'm not sure if it's because African culture is so similar to like Jamaican culture, but a lot of the points that she made in her book about how women are essentially ignored, how the value of men is essentially just more than how people would value women. That just hit home for me, and it was just really familiar to me. So I felt very connected to what she was sharing and all the points that she made. So, in terms of the emotions that it brought in me, I felt angry. I felt hopelessness in a way. I felt relieved too, because I was so glad that someone was talking about this, was having this discussion, was making these things known and letting us know that this is definitely something that we need to all be talking about and that we need to all be aware of. So that was my book. I was in love with it. I was in awe. It was amazing for me.
Thank you, Shanice. Leah, would you like to share it with us also?
Sure. So yeah, I watching the TED Talk, I was in awe as well. I think she's just so confident and intelligent, and I like almost like look up to her in a way of like, I hope one day I could give a speech or something like that too. It was very interesting to see or to hear from a different voice as well, because like I know my story, but it's nice to have, it's refreshing to hear, something a little different, but it's also still relatable. Of course, as women, we all, in some way or another, we all go through it. I really enjoyed too that some of the things that she had said in her talk, she kept in the book, like maybe in some like parentheses or something, because it gave off a tone of like matter of fact and like I'm tired and angry, but this is how it is, and like very straightforward, and it gave a little maybe comic relief to how things are still unequal and unfair. But yeah, I'm really glad that when I was reading, she kept some of those like remarks still in her book, because I think when you're speaking, it's easy to say those, but then in a book, maybe it gets a little professional or like academic, but it still had her like tone and like not attitude, I guess, but in the book as well. So, yeah.
So for me, it was a little bit strange because, well, I'm almost 40, so I lived my grandparents, watching my grandparents and their generation, the generation of my father and my generation. So in Portugal, I see a lot of similarities between what she experienced as a Nigerian woman and what I saw in my grandparents' generation. And I see a lot of similarities with my generation. Not, perhaps not, they are nowadays a little bit more nuanced, but they are still there. But I saw, for example, my grandparents are from like a little village inside Portugal, so women could not enter like a coffee shop by themselves because it was like a man's world. So and so I saw I saw it with their generation. I saw it like almost um, a copy of what's happening, and I see like this is happening today in Portugal, but with the younger generations, but in a more nuanced way. So, and that's really got me angry because it's like three generations and it's all the same stuff. So we still like trying to work through that. For example, the way that she expressed the how she affirms herself as a feminist. If I affirm myself as a feminist to some of my friends, whether they are male or female, that's like misunderstood because they don't understand what feminism is. So it's still like a dirty word per se. So it was like because I saw the TED Talk first and then I saw the book. When I read the book, although it was in Portuguese, I like the her energy was like somehow in the words. So and I kept seeing her powerful presence on the TED Talk stage. So for me, it was also emotive, a little bit emotional for me because it was like being seen and being like seeing that it's not just something that I, a white woman in like a country like Portugal, feel, but it's like something that other women in other countries and other experiences also experience. So it was like a point of commonality also. And so I got like pissed off, angry, but glad that there are women like her like fighting for these kinds of issues. Yeah.
Wow. Yes, indeed. Like for me, it was also like I'm super impressed by her and their way of expressing something that is so vulnerable, no, so uh, painful, no, in like in this way of like, yes, this is happening, and I want to people to see it, to start seeing it, because actually when I was reading the book, like I was really impressed. I was like just remembering like all the commonalities that I experienced with the book. So I was like, so actually it's not just me, it's not just what I see around me. It's like a lot of other women are in this situation right now, right? And we don't have, because I don't know, like also like for how I grew up in Italy, I also had these experiences, and I saw this same stuff experienced by other women. And it's this, for instance, like this theme of invisibility, really, of the body and of the essence and of the presence of somebody, that it's just, for me, it's something like super horrible, that really makes you feel like hurt, like you're nothing, right? Like nobody even like sees you and recognizes that you're there. So what I felt like, I always felt like super sad and super vulnerable about that. But like seeing that written in a book, it was like, okay, it's not my problem, it's not me, it's society. It's something that we have to talk about, because that's how you build actually consciousness also, about these things. So for me, like really this first impression was like a bit shocking, a super emotional, because I was like, yeah, you see, like it's true, and so yeah, I think this is the magic of words and books, in general. If you agree, I would proceed with my questions. See? I would like to go a bit more in the details of the book. So by asking you, which one was the concept, or were the concepts that surprised you mostly in the book? Or Leah, maybe would like to start now?
Sure. I think there's a part where she talks about she was going to teach her first class, and she was trying to decide what to wear. And she's talking about how, and instead of getting ready and, getting her things in order and like to teach, she was worried about wearing a suit or wearing her, I think she said lip gloss and a skirt or something like that. And I just feel like I face that problem a lot of like, how do I perform my gender today? Of like, will I be taken seriously if I wear the skirt or if I wear the heels, or, and if I wear a suit, I will be uncomfortable, or like, that's not what I really want to be doing, but maybe then I'll have more respect. And I thought that maybe this was just me and like my gender, but it was nice to have her explain that. And the thing too, she said after about, she just wishes she would have just wore what she wanted to and been comfortable and been herself, because it affected her job and it affected the way that she was like, feeling comfortable, and then she wasn't feeling enough of herself, and then it affected her teaching and everything. And I was very surprised by that, I guess, maybe because I just figured, no one else really thinks about that. We just put whatever on. So it was really nice to have her bring that up. And I think too, like, especially as like a young person, and she said that too about like her one friend or acquaintance wears a ring and she's not married, but she wears the ring to get respect. And I think about that sometimes as like a young woman that, we don't know much, you're not intelligent or you're new, and like, I don't know, I can feel that sometimes. And I always thought it was like me doing it to myself. But to have her say that and have other people say it too, it's I don't know, reassuring maybe. But yeah, that was one of the parts that I really enjoyed reading about.
Thank you, Leah. Actually, yeah, this is like a great theme of the book. It's something that you really have to face every day, and sometimes you don't even think about like why you are doing it. It's something that is for me. I always struggle, for instance, like with things like this, because sometimes I really have the feeling that I should perform in a way, and it's not like really like the way I would like to dress, or I don't know, to perform or to look like. But I have the feeling that in that moment I am asked, and I'm not talking about like wearing formal suits for formal events. I think that this is like kind of the a written code of society. It's like, of course, for an event you have to dress differently, but the problem is that I have the feeling that really, like, for women, like, we are asked to perform something that is completely misleading sometimes, because you really don't know how to combine what they're asking from you. I had interesting experience now. Actually, I saw like old woman in my village wearing pants for the first time, and I asked her, like, first of all, it like she looked super different, and I asked her, like, why are you wearing pants? And she responded like, yeah, because now I'm old. I need to have like the two legs warm, like all the legs. And she was like, but like, it's the first time for me that I wear pants. And I was like, incredible. That really shocked me. Like, it's the first time that she wears pants, and she told me they are so comfortable. I didn't know that. It was like something that is really like shocking with reality, with my reality, because I don't know, for instance, like, I don't like that much like wearing skirts, for instance. I don't feel very comfortable, and I was thinking a lot about this particular experience, because like she never wore a pair of pants, and it's like, because society didn't want her to wear them. When she was going to work, she was always going to work with a skirt. When she was at home, she was always with a skirt. Even the pajamas, she had the skirt, and it was something completely unreal for me to think about. So yeah, indeed, like, this is interesting theme. Katerina, would you share with us also your concept?
Well, I think that the clothes one, it's something that I struggle with for a lot of my youth, and like when I got to my 30s, I don't care about it anymore. So I wear what I want. So, but it was always something different, even for my generation, because I like stuff that my generation doesn't like. I like stuff that it's like a little bit more like an old style. So even my friends don't like see me a little bit as an alien. So I spend a lot of my time like conforming to the rules and not feeling like empowered by the clothes that I was wearing. So when I got to 30, I just want to be like myself, my identity. So clothes are interesting because of that, because they reflect not only your identity, but they can like give you like the power to step in to your own essence, because it's like the way that you want to be perceived by others. So yeah, but it was like a long journey for me, and actually the one with the ring. I had like a friend that used to wear a ring to her work so that she would not be like molested by men. So, and she's like my age, so it's really common here still. But the one that I was like the most shocked by was the one that when she tells that women would ask men to step with them in a hotel because if she was alone, she would be like perceived as a prostitute. So it was like shocking to me because with my experience with the older generations, women would not be perceived as a prostitute, but it would be perceived as morally loose women to be stepping in the cafe by herself. So, and I experienced that by like for my grandmother, please don't go to the cafe by yourself. And see, I was just like, why? Um, it was a little bit strange. And I remember actually my grandmother, one of my grandmothers, um, talking to me and saying that I could not like sit with my legs open on a chair. So when I was like 5 or 6, and I have this vivid memory on my head still to this day with me asking her, but why? And she would say like, because girls and women don't do that. That's like vulgar. And when she like wrote it on her book, I was just like, okay, it's not just my family. My family, it's not just me that this happened. So yeah, but I think that the one it was like the most shocking for me, it was like the one that women are perceived as prostitutes if they step in a restaurant or a bar or a hotel by themselves. So it's really shocking that this kind of perceived stuff still happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and for me, the concept that was most shocking to me was where she spoke about internalized gender bias. And so just a little part here from where she said, we must unlearn lessons of gender that is internalized. And just hearing from you guys about how um, certain things you weren't used to seeing that's a strange concept because, and it's so important that we're having this discussion because to be able to see that there is an inherent problem in society that we all need to be talking about. It's a wonderful thing, it's a mind-blowing thing to be able to make that distinction. And gender roles, they are internalized. It's something that we are now beginning to question and to actually see that this is a problem. And it is just so great that we are able to do that. And in terms of why I found it shocking is because it made me realize how then in my decisions and how I think that was internalized gender bias because it was based on what society taught me. In thinking that being a career woman is something wrong because you must aspire towards marriage, you must want kids, you must be a nurturer or a homemaker. And if that wasn't who you are, then something is wrong with you. And Adichie spoke about that in her book, where she spoke about how we perceive and grow men is different from how we perceive and raise women. And we have different expectations of both in terms of, I can speak specifically on Jamaican society whereby it's very similar to African society, whereby females are expected to take care of the home. So in terms of cooking, cleaning, taking care of siblings, taking care of family, that's just an expected role for females. And for males, different. They are more, they're allowed to do whatever they want to do. Essentially, they're given more freedom. So seeing how even now, whereby I am seeing my little siblings growing up, and I can make those distinctions in that with in Jamaica, we don't like when men cry. So for example, so we teach men to be tough, to be she spoke about, she said macho, hard man. She spoke about hard man. Yeah, so it's the same in Jamaica. Males are expected to be tough and strong and everything. And I can even see how that internalized gender bias is affecting how I would view my little brothers and sisters, whereby I would want my little brother to be more girl and and being aware of all these concepts teaches me, the upcoming generation, to basically have better parenting. If I do decide to have children, have better parenting practices to ensure that these internalized gender biases doesn't affect my life, my kids, and how they perceive themselves as they grow in society.
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Shanice. Actually, yeah, it's what really all I think about right now is that everything seems so crazy now that we are talking about it, but it's a book, but the problem is that it's reality. It's not like an invention story, but this is real, and we have to face it actually every day, and it's kind of just unbelievable for me in a way. But honestly, I am super optimistic about how things are working out now, because I do see differences in awareness and in consciousness of the daily life of these teens. I do have the feeling that we are actually moving the first step forward, not just institutionally, I mean, but also in the everyday life. Of course, who is aware of it then now is able also to take a first step. So I'm now talking for those who are aware about this theme, these situations. But I think it's still kind of undiscovered, this gender bias. I do think that there is still a lot to discover. I talk for myself. I always try to think sometimes who and who would I am, and how would I look like if I would be not a woman. I'm super curious to see if how much actually this gender role and gender bias affected my life, my entire life. So it's something that's why I'm saying it's undiscovered, because it's really I cannot imagine entirely, how I be, what would I don't know, choose to study. I studied care profession, I studied psychology. In my university there were 200 girls studying psychology and 3 boys. Um, so I'm really always wondering about these concepts. And I have to say, like, I have, every time that I talk about it or I read it about it, I have always, like, I end up with more questions than answers. So I'm still like on a long way to discover these things. But what what about like the quote of the book? Do you have like a quote that you want to share with us that impressed you the most? Katerina?
Yeah. So mine is my own definition of feminism is a man or a woman who says there's a problem with gender and it's today, and we must fix it. We must be better. All of us, women and men, must do better. And I think that this is like relating what with Janice was saying, and is something that is like important to me because I was raised by a feminist. I married a feminist, and it was always a struggle for me to, and it still is, to see the majority of men not, for example, being allowed to state their emotions or show vulnerability, or even I don't think that the majority of men, for example, even has the conscience that they are lacking this part of their life. I think that the majority of men don't have like a lexicon of emotions. I think that the whole as a society, we normally we have like a small frame of lexicon of words that express emotions. Most people like recognize like three or four, but there are like many. I just read a book by Brené Brown when she talks about it. I think the book is like an atlas of emotion, and she's like describing what the research in psychology say what is emotions, but normally women are more in tune and have like a more wider lexicon of emotions that men have. So this for me creates like a problem. If this is a problem for women, for men it's like a bigger problem. But here in Portugal, like I'm seeing like some steps done by men to like break these gender roles that they are institute. They are like there's a really cool group of men. They reunite like I think it's once a month. It's called Men Talks, and like they get together and they talk about these issues and what gender roles are. And so it's like a really small drop in the ocean, but it's like something. We are seeing something. So it gave me hope for the future, yeah, to see like a powerful woman like her stating this in the way that she did, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Katerina.
Right. And for where she said the problem with gender is that it prescribes how we should be rather than recognizing how we are. I thought that was a very, very powerful sentence there. It's definitely something that will be with me for a very long time. Touches on the whole concept of internalized gender biases and how through this we ascribe or prescribe roles, and there is like already a way of seeing people and deceiving people rather than really and truly getting to know who they are. So you're expected to be this, you're expected to be that. There is no recognition of, the unique individual right there who might not have any interest that aligns with what society wants her to be. So it was a very powerful quote, and yeah, that was the one that I wanted to share with you guys.
Thank you, Shanice. And what about Julia?
That was also the one that I was going to share because I really, really enjoyed it. But I have another one too. We teach girls to shrink themselves to make themselves smaller, and I think that's just like so true in a really sad way. And I know even as a feminist, I do it like in many different ways. Like I don't take up the space that I should. I don't take up the time that I probably deserve. And I definitely feel like it is because I don't know. I don't feel like as a woman I should have it, or like that it's just taken already or something like that, But she goes on to say about like girls can like compete with each other and not for intellect but for the attention of men. And I was thinking about that too because all of these like roles that are put onto us aren't just put onto us by men in society. We do it to ourselves as women, like even just my friends or my mother, my grandmother. We teach each other how to be women and how to shrink and and how to perform. And I think that even the title of the book, like We Should All Be Feminists, is so true because it can't just be put on to men of like, oh well, you made us do this, you put us in this corner or whatever. We are doing it all together. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, that's true. I share actually with you these quotes and the reflections that you made about them. I think that indeed it's something that is super, super important, no, to have inclusivity also towards a goal. No, of course, like a movement done just by a group, it's statistically going to be less powerful than if it would have been done by the whole group together. So that's why, then it's something that is super discussed nowadays, no? Should these feminists also groups of men, I do think that inclusivity here really, really matters because it's not just women teaching themselves and shrinking themselves, but it's also like somebody that, like in the first place, wanted them like this, right? So these acquired practice and thoughts, I think that it's super, super important to deconstruct them for everybody now, which is like, I think, like the core also of the book. But yeah, they are super insightful. Thank you. I would now like to know if there was like a least favorite part of the book and what it was written inside. If you have any, or if you have something that you didn't like that much, like wanting to be critical. If you want, like, I can start this one because I know it's a bit tricky. I don't know if you remember, but there is a part in which she defines herself as a happy African feminist, I did see the power, but actually that was the part of the book that made me the most angry, because I really imagine this man saying that she would be unhappy because she would never marry the guy, no? And it was I really wanted to scream, it was very, very, I got super angry, because it's something that it's so important, something so important, like to choose a partner. You are just diminishing it so much, saying that you need to have a partner, whatever is the partner is, but you need to have it, because that's what would be complete in your life, and that would define that. This actually goes together with the ring discussion that we had before, no? And it really made me think. It's the least favorite, but it's because of the essence of it. Actually, I also saw she responding in a super conscious and super powerful way, claiming her identity, her personality, and her recognition as a person, and but yeah, it made me super angry, because it was like this man teaching the lesson. I don't know how. So that was I kind of couldn't take it so well. Yeah, that was for me. Do you have anything that you want to share?
I do.
All right.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
All right. So the part that was hardest for me or made me really angry was when she spoke about the example of the girl being raped or young raped. And she basically explains that women tend to be automatically blamed, because there's this belief that, we should have been more careful. She even spoke about where the first thing that people thought, said, was, why was she in that situation, etc. What was the girl doing, with that many boys or something like that. So it's just a really hard topic to talk about, and it made me really angry because it's so true. Women, we have to take that extra measure to protect ourselves. We have to be more cautious. We have to be more conscious of everything that we do, because we don't want to be giving the wrong impression. We don't want to seem as if we are being too forward. We don't want to be too bold. And I'm thinking to myself, where is the accountability for men? Especially in this situation, where is the accountability for men? It's just something that I really hate, to be honest. Whereby she even says that women accept men as savage beings who don't have any control. And I'm trying to understand, in what way is that okay? So that made me really angry, because I'm trying to understand, why haven't we dealt with this already? Why is this something that is now becoming a thing that we're talking about more and accepting more and realizing that it's a problem? It's always been a problem. So, yeah.
Thank you, Shanice. Alia, you want to go?
Yeah. Now that you brought that up, I'm kind of mad at myself for just skimming over that section, and I just read it and accepted it because that's how it was. So now I'm a little I don't know, irritated that I just was oh yeah, that happens, and then moved on. you should be angry. It's not, yeah, that's not okay. Yeah, the part that I wanted to bring up was about like she talks about bringing gender into conversations, and how she says some people will bring up evolutionary and biology and apes, and how female apes bow to the male apes. And then she ends it with just like, but we're not apes. And I feel like that's too simple, because I've been in those conversations with people before, and they bring up this argument that, we're animals and evolutionary and biology, like we are just animals, so men will always be superior, whatever. And I just sometimes I don't know how to get out of those arguments. And I feel like just to say like, oh, we're not apes, that would not end the discussion with or an argument. It would go on and on and on. And whatever I bring up would never reach an end. So I just felt like I understand the answer that she gave, and it is still powerful because it's just like an end to it. But I think in a real situation, I couldn't just say that to someone and they would just accept it. So yeah, I don't know if anyone ever has like been in an argument or discussion like that before, and you just it goes nowhere.
Definitely. It's a really hard discussion to have, especially when you're having it with people who they aren't open to accepting your views or your, but they want you to accept theirs. So yeah, I completely understand.
Yeah. I actually do understand Lee about what she's feeling about it, because on those moments I have like to center myself and call upon me like the spirit of Buddha or something like that, because the first thing that I want to do is like scream at the person, because it's like an irrational argument. So, but then I just, if I have the patience, I like try to deconstruct that, but it's easier for me because my dad was like a philosophy professor, so having like some tools of arguments helps like invalidate some of the arguments. But I do understand what you are saying, because sometimes I just want like to scream at this person, because ultimately what they are doing is like dehumanizing women by comparing us to, because they are not comparing themselves, men, to animals, but women. So yeah, this is like something that but I think for me what got me angrier was like the same argument as Janice, because at the time in Portugal there was like several legal processes where women in Portugal were raped, and the judge ruled in favor of the guys that raped the women. This was a male judge that did this ruling, and like his ruling was based not in the rule of law, but by these kinds of arguments that they were like wearing short clothes, they were drinking, they were talking to them. So when I read this book was like in the midst of these kinds of processes, so I was really, really pissed off by this, because like it's the 21st century and we have like rights, and like a male judge just skipped the legal proceedings and the rule of law in favor of like two or three guys that just admitted that they raped a woman. So yeah. So yeah, this is this. It's I have like some friends from Brazil. They say that it's easier for them to walk in the streets of Portugal, but the fact is, these kinds of stuff happen in Portugal also. So yeah, and it's something that is not even talked about it, even in the media. So yeah.
Yeah, there is so much hidden still that it's like a bit because we are now talking about like behaviors, attitudes, and stuff, but there are like these things that are like the real dangers of it, no? And this is unfortunately still a problem that we didn't encompass yet. I have to say I really what you said, Leah, about the fact that you were not that you kind of like overwent that part, no? Uh, I would actually link with my next question. It is actually like, are you perceiving some differences or did your impression changed when you read the book for the first time and now that we are talking about it?
Yeah, I think for me that's the the biggest one. I think it's really good to have these discussions, especially with topics like this, and to have it together to be able to see different outlooks or maybe bring up different issues or topics from the book that I would have overlooked is really important. I think I would like to go through and read it again, maybe a little slower this time, possibly. Because I did, I just, it's a small book. I just like read through, but I think it's worth the time. And I do think it's really beneficial to have these kinds of discussions together, to have a different outlook. Yeah.
Yes,
I would say for me, the impression of the book hasn't necessarily changed, but hearing different voices, you guys share your experiences. For me, it just drove the point home and it reassured me as to why we definitely need to be having these discussions more. And it made me have even a better perspective and feeling about the book because now I just want to share it with everyone because I want to instigate discussions like this more often.
and what about you, Katerina?
Yeah, I think it was like the third time that I've read the book. Um, and actually, normally I read this one and then I read the one that she wrote, that's how to raise a feminist. I think it's the one. Normally I read the one and I read the other one. It's like a really small book also. And I think that they both complement each other. But every time that I read her words, something pops out and makes me think deeply on this subject. So yeah, for me this third time actually was about the gender issue. So yeah, but normally I revisit like the book like every like 2 years. Also, yeah, I really like her work. Yeah.
Now, what about that book that's like feminist manifesto in 15 suggestions? No, dear, that one you mean by?
It's like, let me see. Sorry. I think that's. Uh, Let me check the original. It's like a feminine manifesto in 15 suggestions. Yeah, this one.
Would you
So
recommend it? Because
yeah, I really do, because it's like a letter that she writes to her friend about how to raise a feminist. So it's endearing but also powerful in the same measure. So she gives like some pointers in how to achieve it. So it's really nice. It's a really nice book. Yeah, I do recommend it.
yeah, I would like actually to read it. I was thinking to
Yeah,
buy it.
it's small like the other one. So um,
Yeah, maybe we can have then a book club about
yeah, for me, yeah. If you want, I'm game for it.
cool. Yeah, there are like actually like her work is I find it really amazing because she also has this book published I think in 2009, the one that is the collection of 12 stories. How is it called? The thing around your neck, maybe. And there in those stories she explores like the relationships between like parents and children, Africans in the United States,
Yeah,
men and women.
yeah. This one has like the Portuguese edition has one of the short stories, and I read it. It was like a woman that married a man that was in the United States taking his degree on medicine, and so she never traveled. It was the first time traveling outside her country, and how she reacted to the marriage. It was like powerful. After reading the We Should All Be Feminists and reading these short stories, it's really put in perspective her writing around these subjects. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you girls have read something else about her, written by her, maybe?
Mm.
Oh yeah, I mentioned reading about purple hibiscus in high school, so that was my very first interaction or introduction to her. So that's
Yeah, that was my last purchase, so I haven't read it yet, but it's on my nightstand, yeah, to begin to read it this night. Yeah.
I'm now actually reading the Americana, the by her. It's a novel. It was published in 2013, and I'm actually really like getting into it because it really explores perceptions, like different perceptions on a Nigerian woman in the United States. I think it's well, she has also like a very, I have to say, I really love her way of writing. She's so directed to the point and so like imaginative. uh this happens to me, at least when I read her. So it's really like pleasant to read her work. I think she really like I would like to read like everything about her, um but yeah, would you is there somebody that you would recommend this book to read it? Do you want somebody to
all
read this book?
friends,
Who?
all of my male friends, all my male friends, female friends, family members, everybody. but definitely, because what she spoke about in terms of African society, it's so similar to Jamaican society, especially where she said she was speaking about her friend who, I think his name was Louis, who he wasn't aware of the struggles and challenges that women go through. And when she spoke about the example whereby she gave the valet the money for parking their car, he thanked the man instead of her. That was when he realized that, oh my, this really is happening. Like, women are struggling to be seen in society. So I would definitely, that made me want to definitely share it with especially my male friends so that they can be more aware of why this is a problem.
I actually would recommend it to the younger generations. I would like to see this book on the curriculum of schools. So yeah, and see discussions around it, because especially in Portugal, the younger generations are like reverting a little bit. So you are starting to see like violence on between girlfriend and boyfriend, and some stereotypes that we all thought that my generation like was dealing with it. The newer generations are like the latest studies indicate that they are like resurging. So I think that her book was, if they were taught in high school, it would be like great. But I've given like as a birthday present to some of my friends, so it's like the two in one.
I'm suggesting it.
Yeah, just no. I don't. I actually bought it and offered it as a birthday present to some of the people. Yeah.
And what about you, Leah?
Yeah, I have some friends that say that like feminist issues aren't issues anymore, or that they're solved, and um or and they say the same about racism too. So I think it's changing in a way that things are more like not as salient, like you can't see them as well, maybe, but it definitely is still like I forget the word, like ambivalent sexism, where it's like, oh, we're just being nice to women because they're fairer, they're not as strong, or and it's nice to do, but it's still like it's still sexism because you think that I can't do these things. So I think maybe it's not as um, you know visible, but all the same ideas are still there. So I think that if I gave it to some of my friends, they would read and maybe understand. So.
Yes. Thank you. And very last question actually is, do you feel like we covered what you were expecting to discuss together about the book, or is there something that you would still like to discuss?
Actually, I think that this is just a so richer book that you could like do another book talk around it, uh, highlighting other issues that she talks about. So it's a really rich text. One of the things that impressed me the most was the way that she writes is like really succinct, and she like packs so much in like a really small text. So like you could do like other talks around the book. Yeah. So
Actually, yeah, there are so many themes touched in the book that, like, yeah, free events wouldn't be enough to talk about it, actually. And what about you, Shanice and Leah?
Yeah, so I was definitely able to talk about that because I came here with my notes. I had everything. So
I'm sorry, I
as
didn't hear you well. Can you repeat?
I'm sorry, are you hearing me now?
See, yes.
Awesome. So I came with my notes and everything. Like I have a whole book here. So I'm glad that we were able to touch on some very, very important points. I think that we were definitely able to sufficiently browse over and touch on main points and themes of the book. And as Katarina said, in order to really and truly explore this book in its entirety, that will take like several other discussions and then talks. So I'm definitely satisfied with what we were able to talk about today. Having the discussion is enough.
Nice. And Leah, what about you?
Yeah, I feel like we touched on a lot, but I could have talked about each thing that we talked or touched on way deeper. So I feel like you could definitely have like 3 or 4 more. And it would be nice, like I said, to read it again too, you know.
Yeah, in the light of what just discussed, right? I'm also just thinking about, okay, tonight I'm gonna read it again because it's yeah, I think it's really worth it also because you can actually also maybe be able to detect something that you didn't before. And yeah, also I just wanted to say, like, sometimes, I am always asking myself if I am being good as a feminist. I don't know if that kind of make sense to you. And the thing is that, of course, like in, for instance, like my society, it's there is a lot to go through as a woman, and it's quite hard sometimes also for your own expectations, the others expectations, and how to match these things, because of course, like, the others want you to shrink and you would like to open the wings, but you have to be shrunk, and it's like super confusing for me sometimes. So I do have the feeling that's really, like, talking about this stuff, it's kind of makes a bit it helps me to have a bit of more clear perspective, like, on the overall theme. So I wish actually, like, yeah, each theme that we explored, we talked about today, was like, can be explored. Actually, we can um, reserve like an entire session, no, just for one theme that we touched, because actually, like, on these things, like, they are very salient, and like there is so much to talk and to share, actually, about it. But I'm super glad that we had this event, and yeah, maybe we will text each other after we read the book again, so we can share also something more. And every time that you want to share something, or you want to have another discussion, I think that this really makes the difference. At least, like, for me, it makes the difference. So I want to thank you all very much. And if you don't want to add anything, I think we can end the session as you feel like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you very, very, very much again. And I hope to see you soon. And bye-bye to everybody.
Bye, guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to Pink Talks. Before we go, show some love for our favorite podcast by leaving us a comment and subscribe to the channel. We are Young Educators, a non-profit organization working on human rights, gender equality, and active citizenship. And this podcast was created with the support of our team: Ana Catarina Caldeira,
Laura Staffia,
Deborah Capoccia,
Leah Cheney.